What's up, guys? So I got a request to do a shotgun build, and that's what we're going to go over today. I haven't seen one of these done for PvE. I'm sure there's one out there, but I haven't seen it myself, so I thought it would be a good idea to showcase it. If I were to classify this build, I'd say it was probably a tank hybrid build. It does a pretty good amount of damage, has quite a bit of armor, and does some pretty decent healing, making use of the safeguard perk. So it keeps you up there in the forefront of the battle. Before I get into all the stats and stuff, I do want to say that shotguns are in kind of a weird spot, and it takes a lot of work to make a build around them actually effective in PvE content, especially if you're solo. I spent about 25 to 30 hours trying to get this thing right before I made this video, so it's going to be a definite undertaking if this is what you want to do. That said, let's get into it. So the shotgun that I use is the double barrel. It does the best one-shot damage potential and technically has the best DPS. You could use something like the Spas 12 or the automatic shotgun if that's what you prefer. This is just what I use. The talent on it, premeditated, is super great. Weapon damage is increased for every shell loaded into the magazine for a max of 35%. If all the shells are reloaded, then weapon damage is increased by an additional 50%. This buff lasts for 10 seconds. All it needs is 4 or less utility. We can make that happen with this build. Also, I recommend going for a plus 15 optimal range on shotguns, especially the double barrel, just because the damage drop-off is really severe with this thing. The other talent is kind of wherever you want it. And no mods on this guy, but that just makes it easier. I like to pair it with a black market M60. You could use an assault rifle if you prefer, but I like the LMGs. I just think it's great. I use the unhinged on it. Not a big deal here, it's just whatever you want, personal preference wise. I'm also using the sharpshooter specialization, and that might seem weird because the survivalist has the shotgun buff, but with this guy, you get the 30% reload speed as well as a 30% stability. That's super helpful for using the automatic shotgun, as well as the boost to headshot damage. And when you're in cover with the double barrel, it actually has a pretty tight spread, so you'll be able to make use of that 25% multiplier there. You also gain more armor when you're in cover, so you can't really complain about that either. So let's get into our gear here. There's only one piece that I'm missing in terms of brand sets, so it's almost complete, but not entirely min-maxed either. Let's start with the mask. This is a Badger Tough. You want this for the damage to elites and the percentage of armor on kill. What you're really looking for here is a skill power. You don't want any reds because you need to keep those as low as possible. You could get a red on this and get off fine, but I prefer going for the 2 blues and the yellow, just make use of that health. It helps a little bit, plus using that skill power to get more heals off. The chest piece, I went Gila Guard for the 5% total armor. I also have another one for hazard protection there, but that's not really a main concern. You get 10.5% total armor here. That's a great roll. I would have rather had weapon damage as opposed to headshot damage here, but you can make use of it pretty okay. And 37,000 armor. You're really looking to stack that armor here, so if you can get these 2 rolls, you're probably in the breeze. Unstoppable Force is huge. That's what we're really banking off of for some extra damage. 2% weapon damage for every 25,000 max armor. We can totally pull off the 7 blues, as well as a bunch of defensive and utility mods here. That really helps out as well. On the holster, this is a skill power health thing. I didn't see anything that had armor in it. I'm pretty sure it can't roll with them, so just stack that little bit of extra health and get as much skill power as possible. They can roll pretty high on skill power. I unfortunately can't use the mods here, but that's okay. Gila Guard again here for 20% hazard protection. There wasn't a whole lot else that would have made sense. I mean, maybe I could have gone with the LMG damage, but, you know, it doesn't really matter all that much. The backpack is really where I'm missing it. It should be the Badger Tough like this one, but I can't use it because it's got 2 reds. I wouldn't be able to use the next perk that I'll showcase in a second. So I went with this. Needs a little bit more skill power. The armor's okay. Critical hit damage is just kind of meh. And Safeguard, that's a super good thing for this because you're going to be using the drone to heal because you'll be running around quite a bit. Hard hitting is okay. I would have rather stacked the one that gives you more armor, but I could not get that thing to drop. I don't know if they're working on it or something, but it just straight up wasn't dropping for me. Again, defensive system mods for the armor and all that kind of stuff. The gloves. This is an important one. Overlord armaments for the 7.5% total armor. I don't take usage of the rifle damage here, but that's not a big deal. Armor regeneration's kind of meh, not really what you want, but critical hit chance doesn't really help you either. Compensated is really where it's at. You get another 15% weapon damage when your critical hit chance is below 20%. All it requires is 3 or less reds. So, perfect right here. We're rocking a 3, 11, and a 4. It works for everything, gets you a pretty good amount of armor. And lastly, we've got the Kneepads. Again, Overlord armaments. and 11% total armor there. So I got really lucky, but the damage to elites not really helping me out too much. And the mods need a little bit of changing up here too. Offensive protocols aren't helping us at all because we can't use them. So the major things that you need to change about this build are look for more gear with defensive mods, and obviously you don't need the RK here. You need a Badger Tough to make this exactly what you need it to. For skills, what I use is 2 heals. It sounds kind of weird, but if I'm playing solo, I like having all that sustain. Using this drone here, if you put some auxiliary batteries in it and all that, you'll be able to pop off this 21.4% armor repair mod as well. I don't even think I need both of these batteries here, but if you get more skill power than what I did, you can actually run like a longer duration or better power or something like that with the sharpshooter specialization, making this even more effective. And then I use the chem launcher as well because it's really nice to just sit behind cover and get those heals off while you're shooting the enemies. It's just super great, especially with the sharpshooter specialization. So make use of those auxiliary batteries when we get them. That's definitely the way to go. Some things that you want to note about this build is that it's very up close and personal. You're not going to be able to sit back far away or anything like that. It's a shotgun. Obviously, you're going to have to be very close. And then make usage as much as you can of this drone. If you can get something that's going to lower the cooldown of it, that would be great. Sit behind cover, get a kill, wait for safeguard to proc, and then just go ham with these things. Just tanking a bunch of bullets with the heals and the amount of skill power that you have, and you'll be able to get through most activities solo without dying too much and one-shotting quite a few enemies. I had a hard time one-shotting a lot of the elites, but it's still a work in progress. There's definitely some more armor I can get with this build, but I actually had a lot of fun with it once I got it working the way I wanted it to. I was initially going to go with a Berserk build. It just didn't end up working the way I wanted it to, even stacking as much health as I possibly could. The lack of having clutch work with a shotgun really debilitates a Berserk build because you just don't have that sustain up close, and you won't be able to heal as effectively either because you're on the border between healing and then doing the maximum amount of damage that you can. So you could get more DPS out of that, but I feel like there's a lot more survivability and usefulness out of this particular build here. So I hope you guys like it. Leave me some comments and questions about this build if you're having trouble making it for yourself. Like this video, it really does help me out a lot. Subscribe to the channel for future Division 2 content. With that, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.